Welcome, everyone. Happy Monday. This is Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers. And I'm here with you once again to help you build your best cloud computing career. Perhaps your goal is to get your first solution architect job, or your first cloud architect job, or your first enterprise architect job, or cloud engineer job, or network engineer job. I don't really care. I just want to help you build your technology career. I've been working in technology now for over 25 years. And I've spent over 2 decades helping people either get their first tech job or get promoted in tech. And I want to help you get cloud hired. Almost every day, one of my students gets cloud hired. It's the highlight of my day and my week and my life because it's changed lives for the better. And that's why I'm here 3 times per week, completely free to answer any type of cloud computing question and answers you have. So you can build the best cloud computing career that you ever desire. Because I want you to all get cloud hired. I left internal medicine about 25 years ago for tech. And when I did, I don't think I've ever worked a day of my life. Sure, I put in 40, 50, 60, 100-hour weeks during this time. But you know what? I've loved every minute of it. None of it was work. And that's why we're here, to help you build your career. So please come in and ask any questions you desire. The shortest distance between 2 points isn't a straight line. And, I don't want you zigzagging all around the world. I don't want you taking courses that we have to remove from your resume later because they make you look like somebody else instead of the goal of career. I want to help you get cloud hired for that cloud architect job, solution architect job, enterprise architect job, cloud engineer job. So please ask us your questions. And while we're waiting for you to ask your questions, let me tell you about some cool things we're going to do. In September, we're going to run a LinkedIn and a resume workshop. Now, I got to tell you, for my students, when we do this, they get bombarded with recruiters and hiring managers reaching out to them, just trying to hire them. They love it. In fact, my students' biggest problem is literally speaking, telling the recruiters, I'm not ready yet. If you want to have that problem, just like my students, we're going to run a low-cost 4-hour LinkedIn and resume workshop. We're going to show you exactly how to leverage your life experience to show the hiring manager you've got experience, show you how to position yourself to build the optimal brand, and put the right things on your resume and get recruiters and hiring managers to come to you so you don't have to go look for them. And when it's your first tech job, you don't want to be going and applying for jobs at all. And here's the reason why. HR will auto reject you, but if the employer comes to you and you get to see the hiring manager and communicate to them, that's when you get hired. So take our LinkedIn and resume workshop. On Thursday this week, we're going to have a very big, fun free how to get your first cloud engineer job workshop. So join us for that how to get your first cloud engineer job workshop. It's going to be lots of fun, very informative. And you'll learn exactly what you need to know, exactly what you need to be proficient on, exactly what you need to convince the hiring manager to get your first cloud engineer job. So sign up. The link's in the chat box and the description below. Now, this Thursday, to truly help you, we are going to do a mock interview. And by the end of this interview, this on Friday. By the end of this interview on Friday, you will know if you've got the skills to be hired. And I'll tell you either cloud hired or not. And if not, you will know exactly what you need to learn. Exactly what you need to learn. And then, if you want to get that first cloud architect job, take advantage of our 20% off on our cloud architect career development program or our cloud engineer career development program. Make sure you do that. And, if you want to be part of the cloud engineer interview, you want to be part of this interview, register and we'll give you a chance to be in the interview. But if you want to get hired, I strongly recommend you take one of our cloud architect career development programs or our cloud engineer career development program based upon the career you want. Obviously, cloud architects for cloud architects, cloud engineers for cloud engineers. These jobs couldn't be further apart than each other. It's like a pilot and a doctor. They're that different. So make sure you train for the job you want. So at this point, if everybody's willing to give me a cloud hired plus the job that you're interested in the chat box, meaning a cloud hired cloud architect, cloud hired cloud engineer, and then ask me your questions so I can help you build your best career. Videos to views, great stuff. Good to see you. Videos to views. Shoot for the stars, cloud hired. Alonzo D. Coleman, yes, let's get cloud hired. That's why we do what we do. Hello from India. It's good to see you. Can I tell you what is an infrastructure architect? Yes, an infrastructure architect, somebody like me, although I usually take over the enterprise architect world these days. It's a network architect that works on the cloud. That is the infrastructure. It's the routing, the networking. Now, firewalls would be considered infrastructure. VPN concentrators, even though the security would be considered infrastructure. Intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, usually is security, but some people would call them infrastructure. Now, some people would consider load balancers part of it. DNS is definitely part of it. But infrastructure architects are BGP experts like me. They're network experts that have good, strong knowledge in BGP, interior gateway protocols, IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, route summarization, route aggregation. I mean, the IP addressing people for the company. These are the people that are experts at switching, VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, standby redundancy protocols such as HSRP or VRRP, etc. The hot standby routing protocol or virtual router redundancy protocol or the other ones. It involves good knowledge of spanning tree and good knowledge of VLANs and VLAN tagging and VLAN trunking. Exceptional knowledge of WAN technologies, IPsec tunnels, SSL-based VPNs, private lines, Ethernet over MPLS, for example. Lots of knowledge on DNS because there's so much work to be done here. Lots of knowledge on thinking about some DHCP tuning based upon your IP addressing plan. Lots of knowledge on thinking about packet filtering between your subnets, how you're going to segment your network. On the cloud, you break it down into 1,000 VPCs, which is not a lot, by the way. It's not. It's not a lot, for example, to do that. So lots of VPC peering, lots of transit gateway work, right, equivalent on every cloud provider, lots of WAN, lots of network tuning, performance optimization. That's an infrastructure architect. Some of the focus is on the physical infrastructure, which is generally speaking a network. Most people would consider a network architect to be an infrastructure architect, but some people would add that load balancer component and some of those other infrastructure things that make it work. So infrastructure as a service, infrastructure architect. Underlying technology that makes it work. Great question there, Shoot for the Stars. That's my background, actually. But these days I play much more in the executive realm of enterprise architect. Christian, or Chai, you can go to the next one. Anthony Gonzalez, let's get cloud hired. That's why we do everything that we do. LM, good afternoon. It's good to see you. Eddie, good to see you. Good afternoon. Actually, you know what? It's good evening for you. It's good to see you. I know where you're at. So after cloud will be the next technology. So here's the thing. We barely scratched the surface of cloud, Faraz, and here's why. The cloud is a network and a data center that's been virtualized, but the cloud is still far, far, far behind the kind of stuff that I was doing in the network and the data center 15 years ago. I want to put it into clear. The cloud is still far behind the network and the data center, hugely far behind. Disk performance in the cloud is basically 2005 grade 2005 grade or 2010 grade disk performance in the data center. The cloud networking is almost catching up to year 2000 networking. So realistically speaking, the cloud has been a trend for ages. The first cloud I worked on was in 1996, and it was the frame relay cloud. The next cloud was the ATM cloud. I worked on that around 1998. In 2000, I worked on the RFC 2547 BGP cloud. After that, I worked on the VPLS cloud. And then we architects were consulting on how to design these clouds. And now included, guess what? For example, so now we added compute performance and security performance. As far as I think where we're at is getting the cloud to be where it needs to be, the next generation of the cloud. Look, renting and outsourcing your stuff to somebody else, and a cloud is nothing more than a network and a data center where they charge you rent. The key is getting that to perform as good as the old school cloud. You know, when you go to book yourself on an airline and the screen's waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, It's because the cloud disk performance is so much slower, and we're waiting on those input-output operations from the database in many cases. So it's really about getting the cloud security to be equivalent to the data center, getting the cloud's performance to be the equivalent of the data center, getting the cloud networking to the point where it actually needs to do what we need it to do so we don't have to do 15,000 workarounds. And then a real serverless environment and a real cloud that doesn't use these silly proprietary services. For example, I can't use DynamoDB. I can't use an Amazon Aurora. I can't use an SQS. I can't use an AWS WAF. I can't use 2/3 of the stuff that's in a certification. And here's the reason. It's proprietary. And the world is going towards multi-clouds and much more of them, the distributed clouds. Much more edge computing, because that'll give you closer to the performance that you get from the data center and the cloud. Unfortunately, we can't change the speed of light, which is the latency between our data center and the cloud provider. So I think you're going to see much more edge computing, many more IoT devices coming in for that edge computing world. Bringing up the cloud to the network and the data center greater performance, that's pretty critical here. And from there, then it's just a matter of, what's next? Some better version. So in fact, I want to make it clear how old the tech is. So virtualization, which enables the cloud, was designed by IBM in the late 70s. Cisco came in there with the virtual LAN, kind of the basis of the virtual machine. Cisco came up with the private VLAN about 20 some years ago, which is basically the original form of a container. Link aggregation groups, which we use now, came out of multi-link PPP, where we're inverse multiplexing WAN links together to get greater bandwidth. None of it's new. It's all 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old technology that's on the cloud today. So the next phase is getting it better, and faster. That's the next phase. And I think that will take us the next 20 to 30 years. Just like it's taken us about 20 years to get here, or 25 to 30 years to get to this place where we're getting close to the old school performance. And then when the cloud can perform as well as the data center and give us the performance of the data center and give us the security of the data center, all with the agility and digital transformation abilities of the cloud, now we're in a magical world. Magical. But it's all going to be multi-cloud. Nobody's crazy enough to stick everything in a cloud. A few people were crazy enough to try it in the past. All the cloud providers had global outages. Everybody that trusted a single cloud provider, no matter how many data centers, availability zones, regions they use, all went down. So 87% of customers are now on more than one cloud. And 97% that we've spoken to and seen desire to be on 2 cloud or more clouds by the end of the year. So that's the trend, multi-cloud. Chris or Chow, we can go to the next one. Anthony Gonzalez, how do you know when you're ready to take on the job as a cloud architect? Good question. Well, Anthony, for you, you're my student. So when you know how to design one of the class architectures on your own, you're ready for the job. When you can do those architectures in the program and they're simple to you, you're ready for the job. When you wake up and you start dreaming about BGP and traffic engineering, chances are you're getting close to the job. When you can see the subnet plan for the entire enterprise, you're ready for the job. When you understand a strategy to promote high security, high availability, and high performance, you're ready for the job. And Anthony, the key is in class, we go over some crazy architecture sometimes. Not in the last couple of weeks, because I've made it a little easier for some of the new students because we had a lot of them, but we're getting back to the hardcore ones. When you can do our hardcore architectures, the kind that most people would never even know where to begin, you're ready and you'll get hard like nothing. So Anthony, for you, it's been about a month or 6 weeks. Figure you got about 6 or 7 more months and you should be good to go. Because you're very smart, you communicate well, but it does take that amount of time to learn. It really does take about 8 months. It really does. But when you reach those phases where you know exactly what to do, then you'll be good to go. Videos to view. Hey, Mike, is it possible to land a job after completing a foundation course in cybersecurity? It depends. And here's the thing. I don't know what you mean by a job. Any job? Sure. You can take an intro course to cybersecurity and get a job at McDonald's or Burger King. Sure. Now, it depends what your course actually is. So, like, for example, we had Delroy Bat, who's an amazingly fine young man. He took one of those $10,000 boot camps in cybersecurity, went on 30, 40 interviews, was completely unhireable. And then we trained him for a couple of weeks. We polished him up, taught him how to communicate, taught him how to interview, and he had 3 job offers within 3 weeks after that in our program. Now, he's also now working as a cloud security architect. It took about 13 months from the time we met him to the time we did it. Again, he was young and had no background experience at all. But now he's got a great cloud architect job. Daniel Boso, for example, took a $35,000 boot camp that was supposed to help him level up and get a job. It didn't. He had $35,000 of debt. We felt so bad for him. We found a way to kind of help him out. He's now working as a cloud architect. We completely retrained him. So the answer is, it depends what you learn. If all you learned is a security plus or something like that, that's generally not enough to do anything. But if you truly understand security and you understand IP networking and what goes into a packet, and you understand, how to lock down an operating system and operating system vulnerabilities, and you truly understand malware and ransomware, and you truly understand the kind of attacks that occur. And if you understand how to architect this and design a system, what does a next generation firewall do, for example, how to build and design your demilitarized zones, what kind of packet filtering to use, how to secure your hosts, what kind of identity and access management strategy for the organization, and how does it work? These kind of things, if you know that and how to put the pieces together, yeah, you can get a job easily. The key is, what do you know and what job are you actually looking for? But if all you took is a basic course like a CISSP course or a Security Plus or a CISM, on its own, it's not enough for anything. So I don't know what you mean by foundation course. I'm going to tell you one thing. A certification course won't do it, but a training course could. So the key is, what kind of training are you talking about? But the answer is yes, it is. It is. But I don't believe any foundation courses will ever get anybody a job, ever. They didn't for me 20 years ago. And they haven't for anybody that I've seen other than basic intro help desk job. But you don't need to do that. What you need is quality training. So get some Kali Linux and hack into some systems. Learn operating system vulnerabilities. Build the firewall. Play with packet filters. Build the VPN concentrator and SSH into it. Play with it. Set up some VPCs in the cloud and kind of build some filters between them. Deal with some access control lists. Design them and plan them and test them. Deal with some identity and access management platforms. Build an Active Directory server. Kind of get some knowledge on it. Deal with some Radius servers. Learn about zero trust and how to implement it and make it work. See, there's so many incredible things that you can do, but intro courses don't teach you the skills. You need to, learn them. So you take what you learned in the course, everything you didn't understand, Google it, master it. I would tell you to read 1,000 pages on firewalls. I'm not joking. I did. I'd tell you to read, hundreds of pages on access control lists from Cisco and Checkpoint and Juniper. I'd tell you to build an Active Directory server, read that Microsoft documentation, build a Radius server, get that documentation. I would tell you to really learn about how to lock systems down, what goes into a security policy, the kind of training, etc. But I still don't know your job and the job you want, because each job of these are different. So if you tell me which job, I can tell you more of what you need to know. But intro courses or foundation courses, like I said, there's no fresher jobs anymore. And here's why. Why would I ever hire a fresher or a new grad? I'll hire someone that's competent. I don't care about their experience, but I need somebody that's strong and feels like they've got 20 years experience, even if they have none. Because I can't afford to bring on somebody that doesn't know, dedicate a $200,000 a year resource to spend 6 months to teach them. It costs the company too much money. Now, if the person that I interview is super enthusiastic, super passionate, truly likable, has a great degree of executive presence and sales skills, and strong fundamentals in how it works. That plan is nothing to train them, but it's the fundamentals. And it's been my experience after surveying, hundreds of these foundation courses, I'm not seeing the fundamentals being taught. I'm seeing certification being taught, which is the name of the service and how to configure it, as opposed to how does it work? How does it work? So my brother came and visited me from Philadelphia. My brother is an incredibly smart guy. He's mechanically gifted with his hands. He's gifted in so many ways. And while he was here, I needed some little, I have some huge power requirements in my house. And my brother says, I can fix them for you. No, my brother is an electrician. And as he's going through these, he's like, well, I have to do it this way because of this. And I went, yeah. And we have to do it this way because of this. And I went, yeah. See, that's the difference. He got it. Anybody can just run a cable. What made him skilled is the why. And that why puts him into the deep engineering or space, or potentially architecture based on whether he's building it or designing it. It's the why. It's all about the why, and that's usually not what's taught in foundation courses. But I don't know your background, I don't know the course you took, and I don't know the level of competency you have. So if you can do all those things that I told you, yeah, you're going to get hired easily. But if you can't, we can train you to be a cloud security architect, and you'll definitely have a job when you're done, at least assuming you do all the work. But you can do it. Just learn what I told you. Just don't worry about the certifications. Get a certification to show you got something, but focus on the competency, and that's how you win. Focus on the competency and get yourselves cloud hired or security hired. And actually, while we're at it, give me a hashtag cloud hired, everybody. Nate Robinson. I have a background in web development and some coding, and I can't help but wonder if I'm a good for cloud architect. Nate Robinson. Everybody's a good fit for cloud architect if they want it. Romanik Ivan Tanva was serving food, and he's working for AWS. Coyote was a college student, he's working for AWS. Daniel was selling shoes, and he's working for JP Morgan Chase. Delroy was working, I forget, actually, he was unemployed when we found him, but I think he was working in the retail. No, he was working as an EMT, and they all got cloud architect jobs. Now, if you're asking me if software engineering is good for a cloud architect job, not really, but it doesn't matter. It's what's good is this. So here's the reason it's not great. But Nate, it's okay. You can still become a cloud architect just like everybody else. And I get software engineers and web developers constantly hired as cloud architects, just like I get waiters and waitresses hired as cloud architects too, because we provide the right skills, the right training. So here's the problem you have as a web developer. A cloud architect designs, presents, and sells, and we don't code, we don't get hands on them, we don't configure. I'm going to say this again. Design, present, and sell. We don't code, and we don't configure. Now, Nate, what is it we are really designing? Network and data center solutions, which means BGP, OSPF, IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, for example, route summarization, route aggregation, WAN technologies, IPsec tunnels, SSL-based VPNs, private lines, Ethernet over MPLS, software-defined networking, and SASE. It's switching concepts, which is VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, link aggregation protocol, etc. Then it's DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy ARP, and how do these protocols work, and how do you tune them, just to name a few. And then on the data center side, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with server virtualization and containers and container orchestration and block storage, file storage, object storage, databases, how to architect them, how to scale them, how to design them, load balancers, and security components, IDS, IPS systems, VPN concentrators, next generation firewalls. So that's the stuff we do. So unless you're working as a data center architect or a network architect, it's going to be a major change, but that's okay. I went from medicine to tech in 6 months as a lead architect, and you can too. I could give you example after example of geologists that I have, or geoscientists that are doing that, are getting cloud architect jobs, or psychologists that are getting cloud architect jobs with no tech background. So whatever you've done in life is cumulative, Nate. The fact that you did some coding is good. It means you at least understand a little bit about applications, which is better than me. I've never done any coding because I'm a network architect. We don't code. Enterprise architect. We don't code. Cloud architect. We don't code either. But Nate, you can do it. You just need to learn. So Nate, you've got two challenges going on. One is you learn the network in the data center. Now, on your benefit, you've got some tech background, which is great, right? Unfortunately, you look like a techie if you're doing coding. And nobody wants a techie as an architect. They want a business executive that also understands the tech. Because for us, it's a big picture, design, present, and sell. And for the engineers, it zooms in close. So the next part of what you have to do, and we could help you with this, Nate, is that you have to redo your brand. So you've got to translate any coding that's on your resume. You might say coded website with Java, whatever. Instead, as an architect, is design new website that improve sales performance by 13%. Design new web application that improves customer intimacy and customer satisfaction by XYZ%. That's what we're doing. We need to show the transformation. Engineers focus on build. We focus on the transformation. So what are we designing? What are we designing? I mean, there's no architecture. That's called an engineer. There's no such thing. And if you get too techie, you will not get good architect jobs. So the key is what we need to do is build you as a brand, as a digital transformation specialist, build your leadership skills, your sales skills, your executive communication skills, your executive presence, your emotional intelligence, your business acumen, your ability to do some ROI modeling, etc. Mix that with digital transformation. And as my buddy says, Bobby is your uncle, and then you got it. You are completely set. So yes, you can do it. Is your background natively? No, but it doesn't matter. You've got tech background. It's good. Far better than a lot of the people I work with, background-wise. But the key is, if you want to be a cloud architect, you'll be a cloud architect. If you want it in your heart and you're willing to do the work, you'll be a cloud architect. It doesn't matter your starting point. You know, people are so worried about their starting point. Where you need to be worried about your destination. What you had for dinner yesterday does not affect you today. So whatever is your goal is what's going to get you there. Want to be an architect? You can do it. Want us to train you? We'd be honored to train you, and you should be hired far faster and far cheaper training with us than any other way in the world, but I don't care. I just want you getting hired. And yes, you can do it, Nate. You can do it, you can do it, you can do it. 100% sure you can do it. All you have to do is want it bad enough and do the work and build the right plan and follow the right plan. Cloud hired, my friend Alonso. Cloud Curious, good afternoon. It's good to see you. Anthony Gonzalez, we will be getting you cloud hired as a cloud architect. Abigail Marks, cloud hired, and I hope none of the cat's doing pretty well today too. You have an interview for your proposal writers where you can write and deliver RFIs, RFPs, RFQs, task order responses. Have you worked with other students in similar roles? LM, absolutely. I've hired proposal writers. Now, here's the thing. We still respond to the RFI, RFPs, and RFQs as architects. The proposal writers won't know what to write. So the way it typically works for the normal ones that I do is as follows. And proposal writers are good. By the way, if you're doing that, that is a more valuable skill than, say, website coding to me, because this is so much closer to what we actually do. And yes, I have worked with people from this background, tech writers. So when I do an architecture, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go meet with the client. I'm going to find out their goals, etc., business challenges, pain points. I'm going to be looking for all of this. After that, what else is going to be going on? Well, then next, I'm going to be building a team, and it's going to be 20, 30, 40, 50 people long, which I'm going to lead. And when the RFI, RFP, RFQ comes around, what's going to happen is me as the lead architect, enterprise architect, I'm going to be reaching out to my team. Yoo-hoo, I need this thing on the firewall strategy called security architect. Offensive security architect, I need this in the penetration testing strategy that you're going to be doing. Cloud network architect, I need your network piece. IAM architect, I need your IAM stuff. You get the point. I'm going to be bringing everybody. And when the RFI, request for information, RFQ, request for quote, RFP, request for proposals, come in. Every one of those people is going to send it to me. And as an architect, I'm going to look and see if it makes sense. And then if it does, I'm going to send it to the proposal writers. And the proposal writers are going to work really hard to make sure that it looks like one person wrote it instead of 50. And by doing that, we're going to be. So yes, I've worked with people from this background. This is a fantastic background, by the way, because what do we do as architects? If I told you 30% of our time is writing executive, concise, trying to make complicated text sound easy, this is incredible experience. This is very good experience. And I'd rather see this than cloud admin work. Personally, this is much more in line with what you can do. I love it, LM. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Good thing to take on while you're a student to become a cloud architect. Hello, Louie. It's good to see you. Carl, good to see you. Cloud Hire. Gee, I've been watching the RO modeling lectures and was wondering, on the job, will you be able to speak to different departments to gather numbers? You'll have to. For your total cost of ownership, you have to. So that's the thing, G. We are not engineers, and I love engineers, but we are not engineers. We are at the customer, at the customer, at the customer. That's why we need a completely different skill set. It's going to be up to you to buy them lunches, buy them dinners, buy them drinks, get people drunk, get them talking, take them to golf outings, and you're going to be there constantly. You've got to go through, first you've got to start with the executives, then you got to talk to all the department heads, then you got to find some employees on the ground and ask them what's working for them and what's not working for them. Otherwise, how do you know what's going on in the company? You got to be there, take them to lunch, observe. I worked in a really big bank and I got a desk there. Every day I took them to lunch, dinner, and drinks. I just hung out. While I was there, can I help you with anything? Yeah, Mike, can you design? Yeah, sure, I'm here. Develop such a relationship. And then when you want to ask your customer, you'll get it. But yeah, you have to ask. Nobody gives us a piece of paper that says this is what to build. That's engineering. And that's the reality. That's why these silly certification courses in architecture, they're like, here's a Git project. Well, first, we don't do Git. And secondly, we don't even know what to build until we talk to everybody. So yes, not only will you need these numbers for the ROI model, how do you know what problems you're solving unless you talk to the departments? You have no idea. So you'll be speaking to lots of departments, department heads, regular employees, managers, everybody. If you're going to design solve a customer's problem, you got to know what the problem actually is. And sometimes the CEO doesn't even know what's going on because the people have been inappropriately managing up. If the CEO's, closed off, how is it? Everything's great, Mrs. CEO. Everything's great, Mrs. CEO. Mrs. CEO is beautiful. Mrs. CEO is beautiful. Now, if the CEO is great, Mrs. CEO, we have a challenge here. Here's a solution I recommend. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Then you're going to get it from the executives, but not all executives are actually at the front line. I mean, personally, whenever I lead, I go ask everybody. I'll even stop a maintenance person in the hallway and say, my name's Mike. I'm from here. I'm trying to improve the company. Can you tell me anything that you've seen or heard or that you suggest? Ask everybody. Seriously. So you're going to be having lots and lots and lots of communications, which is why your emotional intelligence, your leadership skills, your executive presence, your communication skills is the most critical. Because without communication skills, we have no idea where to begin. Great question there, G. Great question. Kevin Ho, you've heard that there's a high burnout ratio in IT career. Did I ever burn out before? Kevin Ho, I think IT has one of the lowest burnout ratios I've ever seen in any career in my entire life. I never burned out. Medicine was hard. IT is simple. I mean, in medicine, somebody's calling me 24 hours a day. People are dying. That's stressful. That causes burnout. In tech, here's what I experienced. I went to the office because I'm an architect, Kevin. I get to go to the office. I get to go to a meeting. I get to eat a nice lunch that the company pays for. I'm buying somebody else's lunch. I go to another meeting, take people out for some nice cocktails. That's my day. Go to San Jose and present to some executives, go to London and present to some executives, spend a week in Dubai and talk to some wealthy people that want to do some investments and talk about how your tech can help. That's an easy job. I mean, I think it's easy. Now, my old world, I paid my way through college by being a firefighter paramedic. Yeah, people burn out from that. I've been shot at, I've been hit, I've been spit on, kicked, attacked. Well, thankfully, I'm a great martial artist, but the point is that's a burnout job where you're working 80 hours a week to make ends meet and you're taking abuse. Nurses have a high burnout job. Tech is simple. You go in there. Now, the only people that burn out are people that are just lazy because they just don't want to work. Now, Kevin, I will tell you one thing. There is one set of the tech careers which do burn out, which is why I never recommend them. I never recommend help desk careers, and I never recommend programming careers for the following reason. The only job that I know where people get bombarded and abused is help desk, because the companies don't think a lot of them, even though they're very important people. They're very low paid. You can only get yelled at all day long. My computer's broken. My computer's broken. My computer's broken before that. So that does cause burnout. The other place is actually programmers. They tend to burn out as well. Now, I don't recommend programming careers for the following reason. I work and coach people to build the careers that pay the most, that have the most career progression. And with that, we have to look at where does the future grow and these almighty supply and demand curves that we get out of macroeconomics. Everybody's taught coding in school. Everybody. So coding's not a special skill. Everybody has it. 12-year-olds know how to code. Now, here we bring into the question. So there's this. So if you have one of these jobs that anybody in the world can do, like coding, now you're no longer a privileged person with a unique skill that nobody else has. And the reality is, Kevin, if they give you too much work in coding and you don't like it, the company can just go to another country and get a software developer for 15 to 20 cents on the dollar that's very excited to work. And in many cases may even be better. So, very low burnout outside of software engineering and help desk. Those places do tend to burn out because lower pay, longer hours, and institutionalized abuse, as we like to call it in medicine. But our architects are typically thrilled. Engineers are usually happy. But anybody on the architecture side that I've ever met was like, I can't believe they pay me to do this. I still can't believe I get paid lots of money to design systems and buy lunches and dinners and drinks. I used to, once a week, tell my wife how lucky I was to have a job where I got paid to do nothing, where I got paid to talk to people, to buy lunches, dinners, and drinks. I used to work hard in my life, where, I'd wake up, I'd work a double shift at the ambulance. Somebody would try and hit me with a baseball bat, and I'd have to deflect to take the baseball bat off them or restrain them and take care of the sick family member. That's hard. This, go to the office, talk to some people, buy some lunches on the corporate credit card. I think the tech is the best place in the world to work. I've spent my life here ever since I left internal medicine, which was a high burnout job. And it's all been relaxation and happiness for me. My students that have gotten hard, they couldn't be happier. They're like, I can't believe they pay me to do this. It's up to you. We all have our own internal philosophies. I'm grateful to have a job. I'm grateful to have a house. I'm grateful to have a beautiful cat, Cindy, and I'm grateful to have a wife, and et cetera, et cetera. So things like this, I'm thankful to have them. I don't burn out. Good to see you, Robert West. Cloud hired. Abigail Marks, yes, cloud hired times 100. Cat hired too. Oh, I love those cats over there on Twitch. Dylan Williams, with the design decision for what kind of routers to be used, an architect thing. So Dylan, architects are architects. So when I design systems, as an infrastructure architect, yeah, you're going to be picking this stuff out. But, how do you really do it? So I want you to think about how I would design this. How I would design this is as follows. If I know that I need 2 high availability routers to the cloud, I know that those routers need at least 2 power supplies on separate circuit breakers, 2 control modules in case one fails. The thing should be split across multiple line cards. I know that. That's good network architecture. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do when I've got a situation is I'm going to call Cisco. Hey, Cisco, could you tell me what kind of routers would work with this? And their engineers are going to suggest it. Or, hi, Juniper, do you have any recommendations based upon these requirements? And they're going to tell me. And then, I may even have my network engineers or cloud engineers actually test to see which works better for me. But yeah, we're definitely going to be doing that. We're responsible for the high-level design, and that's definitely part of it. Definitely part of it. But the key for us is knowing what we need to do. What's the throughput we need on the routers? What level of redundancy do we need in the routers? What's the point of the routers? What's the future growth that we plan on? This goes into architecture. So Dylan, yes, that's an architect thing. Now configuring them, that's an engineer thing. Which stuff to design? Yeah. But how to build it, we don't touch that. That's where the network engineers and the cloud network engineers come in. Great question, Dylan. If you guys have some questions, please ask them in the chat box. We love your questions. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell. How much security plays an important role in cloud? Security is everything. Security is everything. Every one of my students has almost the skills of a security architect. Almost every one of them. All of them. Because if you want a high availability system, meaning it's there when you need it, if you get hacked, it's not available. If the business's information is compromised, not only do you not cause digital transformation, you can destroy the business. If your competitors get your information, they can steal your intellectual property and put you out of business. Security is everything. 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 So it's not just because the next war is a cyber war. It's because the security goes down. Now, one of the cloud providers was hacked last year, which took them down. Another cloud provider had 4 outages on very questionable things. Many people think they were hacked too, because they had lots of problems, impaired networks, power failures, little mini blips that didn't make sense to anybody in the industry. So there's that too. I mean, who knows? Maybe it was. But security is everything. Everything. And it plays so much. That's why, people need to understand security. And there's nothing in a little mini certification that talks about security. I've probably read 50,000 pages on security materials in my career. That's the kind of knowledge it takes to be able to go into this. And what I've done in that is taught my students exactly how to do it and what goes into it and why. But yes, security is huge. Data loss protection is part of security. Identity access management is part of security. Security policies of what the organization is going to be doing it. The firewall, the IDS, the VPN concentrator, the DMZ environments. What are you doing for the operating systems to secure them? What kind of zero trust? What kind of packet filtering are you using? What kind of layer 2 technologies are you using if you're using that? What kind of authentication systems are you using? Are you training your people in anti-phishing, anti-social engineering campaigns? And this is critical skills for the cloud architect and the cloud engineer. Absolutely critical. Chow, you can go to the next one. We go. Hi, sir. I want to know how your cloud architect programs works. Sure. So we have 3 live classes per week, which are done via Zoom. And the reason we do this is where we do the live work. In this particular course, I teach actually a live tech training in this course. The students and I will design architects together twice per week. And these generally will be the kind of architectures that only somebody like me that's ever been involved in, somebody that's got, say, 25 years experience, that have complexities everywhere. I use them, and here's the reason why. If you can do them, you can do the simple stuff that you get on an interview. And when my students go on an interview, they laugh and they say, Mike, are you serious? This is the interview? It's nothing compared to what you taught us. So I do that twice per week. I teach the tech. Now, in the third live class, I teach the leadership skills, the sales skills, the executive presence, the ROI modeling, business acumen, and all those other skills, interviewing. So there's 3 live classes per week. Now, in between these live classes, there will be projects for you to do. Videos that will be practicing your interview, video presentations, sales presentations, architectures that you'll be going to design, career plans that you're going to be working with, negotiation techniques you're going to learn, interview techniques, resume work. There's going to be, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of work for you to do. Hundreds of hours. And assignments that you'll turn in, and you'll get feedback and grading from my team. And that's, why we have to do what we have to do. So live training 3 times per week. And in between classes, you have videos, books to read, prescribed reading, projects, and projects. And they're all going to be architect-related projects. My engineering program, people do engineering-related projects, but it's an architect program. Now, next, there's the tech lab section. Now, we architects don't touch the tech, but you need to know how it works. And your employers are going to know that you did it. So we do 3 kinds of labs. The kind of labs we do, we do the 50% on Azure and AWS. There's about 50 labs there. Look, basic certification labs just to make sure you did it. That's not getting you hired, but you can say you did it. Now, we do labs that get you hired, real cloud architect labs. And you could do these labs on your own, but our course right now is $800, and it would cost you more than $2,000 to do the labs on your own, because you'll need a server with at least 16 cores, 120 gigs of RAM, and 3 SSD drives in RAID 0. In fact, I pretty much have, you wouldn't believe the number of them that I have for my students. And on these servers, set up server virtualization and containers and container orchestration and file servers for Windows, file servers for Linux like NFS versus SMB, set up firewalls and VPN concentrators, build an Active Directory server, build some actual applications in there like the LAMP stack, and build yourself a cloud. All my students build a cloud. And that way there's like the other people from certification training programs, they're kind of like little kittens when they walk in there. It's like a little kitten that's going in there and I'm saying, I'm cute, I set up an S3 bucket. And my students are like a roaring lion. I built a cloud. So, that's part of what we do. But of course, there's resume training and interview training and negotiation training. It's really a $50,000 program that's out there. I mean, at bare minimum, we could charge $50,000 for it easily. Our average graduate earns between $120,000 and $275,000 a year. But, here's the thing for us. It's not about the money for us. I don't need to work. I spent well over $250,000 to learn these skills. As did a few other people support me with them along the way. These are expensive skills that are normally only available to the elite, privileged few, the richest people of the world. And I want everybody in the world to be able to understand and play at that level. So like any part of the world that has their secret handshakes, that's the way we communicate, and I teach that. There's a level of leadership skills, a level of presentation skills. And when I teach all that, and my students come in, and my students are energetic, enthusiastic, highly competent, emotionally intelligent, with great executive presence. When they walk in the room, you feel them, and you know they're in charge. High degrees of technical competency and high degrees of emotional intelligence, they just hire them because they forget that they have no background. But it's taken me 20 years to do this. Interviews of thousands and thousands of recruiters and hiring managers over the years and other people in the earth. And it's been a 20-year focus. And we'd love to help you get your first cloud job. We do it all the time. That's how we do it. Georgetta, what's the right amount of certifications to have as a beginner? 2 of them. 1 cloud certification, like the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, the Azure Solution Architect Expert, or the Google Professional Cloud Architect. 1 of them. Not all 3, just 1 of them. And then get something from industry that's meaningful, like a CCNP, like a Cisco Certified Network Professional. Because Georgetta, here's the cloud. It's a data center network. And if you don't know the network, you don't know the cloud. and things like the AWS Advanced Networking aren't sufficient. I may teach another AWS Advanced Networking and then supplement it with BGP and supplement it with real routing. And that way we can make it kind of like as an intro to some more senior networking for architects. I might do that. But, 2 certifications. I like to see one from the network and one from the cloud provider. That's typically what I look for. One for the network and one from the data center. CCNP is obviously a network certification, where there's a VMware data center certification, which could be used in place of the certification, like a VMware Professional, but I prefer the CCNP. It seems to be the best one. For people that like security, I recommend a CISSP, for example, along with the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, but generally speaking, 2 certifications. Max 3, but any more than that, you're going to get yourself in there and end up unhireable because you're going to look like a techie. So 2 to 3, max is 3. No associates, professionals only on your resume. Great question, Georgetta. I'll go, which certification should you get? Well, first, you're listing 3 clouds. And secondly, I don't know what job you want. Without telling you what job you want, I don't even know where to begin. Now, here's the thing. You're thinking certifications. Nobody's going to hire you for certifications, ever. They're going to hire you for knowledge, and that knowledge isn't covered there. The introductory level certification, the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, may be 5% of what you need. That's why our program is 500 hours. So the insanity of worrying about which certifications is really not your fault. It's based upon the way the cloud providers have paid their marketing departments. I come from medicine. And in medicine, we have drug companies that pay people millions of dollars to make stupid names for their drugs. Like Pfizer made up a name, Lipitor. Millions of dollars are spent on this. Millions, if not billions of dollars on brand packaging to make it look pretty. They call it Lipitor. And next thing that happens, it goes generic. Somebody has another drug called Lipid Light. Another one calls it Cholesterol Low. Another one calls it Lipid Improver. Another one calls it this. Now you got 50 names for the same drug. Now, those of us that practice medicine, you think we're going to remember all those 50 stupid marketing names? We're not. And when I write a prescription, it's going to be atorvastatin 20 milligrams, not Lipitor 20 milligrams. And every other doctor in the world is going to do the same thing. Every nurse practitioner in the world is going to do the same thing. Every physician assistant. And here's the reason why. We learn medicine. We don't get certified in nonsense. Now, if I told you, how about learning to drive? Do you get a special certification for a Honda and a special certification for a Toyota and a different certification for a Mercedes and a different one for a BMW? Of course you don't. You learn to drive. Now, here we in the cloud, we run into the same thing. All my students know how to work on every single cloud. Now, I train my students on the AWS cloud, the Azure cloud, and the OpenStack cloud primarily, but they still do the Google cloud too. But here's the difference. If you truly understand what's going on under the hood, not the nonsense in a certification, but if you truly understand what's going on under the hood, let's talk about it. A network load balancer, right? We need it. AWS makes up the silly name Elastic Load Balancer. Google calls it Cloud Load Balancer, and Azure calls it an Azure Load Balancer. That's pretty easy, right? But now let's think about where it gets complicated. Object storage is about 30, 40-year-old storage. We've been using it everywhere. Block storage is too. Now, think about this. Think about calling it object storage to your customer and knowing how is object storage. What does it work? What are its strengths and weaknesses? Why do organizations use that? And then it doesn't matter if you got the stupid AWS name Amazon Simple Storage Solution, the crazy Google name Cloud Storage, or the crazy Microsoft name Azure Blob. It's object storage. Now, if I tell you that, I'm going to take my 10,000 virtual machines from the data center to the cloud, and you're familiar with a virtual machine, it doesn't matter if it's in your VMware cloud, a KVM a virtual machine, a QEMU virtual machine, a Citrix Xen virtual machine, an AWS Elastic Compute Cloud instance, an Azure virtual machine, or a Google Compute instance. It's the same 40-year-old technology. So what I would like you to do is learn the cloud and get certified in one, but learn the cloud. You don't get certified to drive 5 different cars. And Michael, the reality is when we speak as customers, especially as architects with our customers, we can't use these dumb branding names. We got to go back to the precision name they know. If I go talk to a CEO about his elastic compute cloud, he'll laugh me out of the room. I'll be fired and my replacement will say, thank you for the nice job. If I talk to the CEO and say, we understand you've got a lot of this storage and we can move it to the cloud in a better, faster, more scalable manner to save you money and increase profitability, that they understand. So get one certification from the cloud. And I recommend it's AWS or Azure and not Google for the following reason. Google has less than 10% market share. Azure and AWS are pretty similar. So for your recruiters to take a certification seriously, now nobody hires you on a certification, but it'll help you get an interview. The AWS or Azure certification is going to hold much more weight. So I would do one of the two, but I would learn the cloud. And I would only get certifications that are in my field. For example, I know the certification providers, and they're hurting people's careers so badly. They're saying, hey, if you want to get an AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, you got to take this Cloud Practitioner, Certified Solution Architect Associate, DevOps, which is another person's career, SysOps, which is another person's career, Cloud Developer, and oh, by the way, now you can take this simple Certified Solution Architect Professional. Nonsense, and here's the reason why. If you want to be an architect who designs, presents, and sells, and you've got all that techie business on your resume, nobody will hire you. And we have to remove those irrelevant certifications to get people hired when they've done it. And that's why we want you to ask the questions. And the reason we hate doing this is somebody spends a year doing certifications. Now, if they were working in that year, they could have earned on average $160,000 a year. But if they spend a year on wasted certifications, they're not getting paid anything. So tell me exactly the career you want, and I'd love to help you get there. But certifications are not going to do it for you. They will help you get an interview, but it's all the stuff that's not covered in the interview that gets you hired. Chris, you want to go to the next one? World technology is moving towards decentralized, not necessarily, and centralized cloud. Which is the most viable move towards? How do you feel about it? I don't think we're really going to know. Blockchain is towards decentralized, but now blockchain is becoming very centralized, being housed in the cloud provider. We don't know if it's going to work out. Personally, I don't even know if blockchain is going to make it at all. I think some of it will make it, and most of it's going to die. Now, there's some really great uses of blockchain. Finding equipment, drug diversion, weapons movement, oil movement. So there's some very good uses for blockchain. And blockchain started as decentralized because people wanted to take the money off of the ledgers in the banks and make it decentralized. So, but I don't know if blockchain is going to make it. I was an early adopter and an investor into blockchain things. I was mining cryptocurrency many, many years ago. Got out of it when it looked like it was going to be problematic because, I, as an economy person and almost a hobbyist economist, more than a hobbyist economist actually, I always follow market trends and know when to get in, when out as a general rule. So there's that. So keep that in the back of your mind. But if blockchain makes it, I don't know if it's going to be a centralized or a distributed blockchain. I don't know if blockchain is going to make it, but I know cloud is, because we've been doing cloud computing now for 40 years, and it's just more of the same thing, but just better, faster, and cheaper. I do think the cloud will get a little more distributed to reduce latency. But I don't know. I'm really not sure about blockchain and its future. I love it, but I'm not sure. Try and go to the next one. What about long hours away from the family? Bad weather freak, all good jobs that pay a lot have long hours and require you to travel. That's just part of it. If you don't want to travel and you're afraid of long hours, don't get into any elite field. That's why I can describe it. I like to tell people that if you're concerned about work, there's McDonald's, there's Burger King, there's Wendy's, there's a local restaurant. And here's the thing, bad weather freak. Any job that's going to pay you very well has demands on you. When a doctor comes home from work, they're still worried about their patients. When somebody on Wall Street is done their day, they're thinking of their moves for the next day. They're looking at what's going on in Asia ahead of time. They're looking at what's going on with interest rates. They're looking at, the companies that day that reported their earnings. As an architect, you're going to be sent places. And they're going to expect you to know how to do things. I still think this is the best job in the world. I think it's the easiest job of any job I've ever had in my life, bad weather free. But what did I do before this? I was a firefighter, paramedic, a nurse practitioner. These are all hard jobs. Hard jobs. And, in the end, I was still helping the family with the Greek diner that we owned. We would do a double shift at the hospital and then get a call from our family members. Hey, this cashier called out or this cook comes out. Could you come and cook? And of course, the answer is yes. It's family. We love them. So I'm no stranger to hard work. And like the expression says, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't try. And I truly believe that. Those who are willing to put out the effort, those who are willing to show that they're not lazy and unmotivated, those that show they're willing to go above and beyond, they have careers like this. They really do. There's extremely strong data to show that mental toughness or grit is one of the best predictors of long-term career success, along with emotional intelligence and soft skills. So working long hours away from the family, I did it. Now, I took my wife to Greece with me on business trips, to California on business trips, to England on business trips, to Spain on business trips, all over the country, all over places. Anywhere she ever wanted to go, I took her. And I loved that. And she liked it too. But yeah, you will be away. And hence you're going to need really good communication skills and really good emotional intelligence to try to keep everything glued together and be healthy. But I still don't think there's any better job in the world than the cloud architect, network architect, or enterprise architect. I can't think of anything that I'd rather do. And I've done. And I did it until I completely retired. And I didn't retire due to burnout. I retired due to a bad injury. And came out of retirement to get the World Cloud hired because I saw what the certification providers were putting out there. And I couldn't let anybody do that because I didn't want to see anybody spend 10 years to get their first real job that they wanted for and take junior level jobs. I've never had to do it. None of my clients have ever do it. So that's why I'm here. So yes, there is long hours, but if you love what you do, it's not work. It's not work-life balance you're looking for. It's work-life harmony. There's a big difference. And I'm going to make a video on it. Work-life balance is, here, I hate my job, and I want to split 50% of the job that I hate with my family that I like. That's work-life balance. Work-life harmony is I love my job. And when I'm working, I'm happy. And when I'm home, I'm happy. Because your job is part of you. That's what we're looking for. At least that's my perspective. Those are the people that manage to get to the top as well. Before we get into before you get to another one, please ask some questions that you have. If you've got some questions, we want to help you get your life. We want to help you build your career. We want to help you get your job, etc. So please put any questions you want. Turbo Boot Cash, you're looking to get in the DevOps stream and you're very clueless on which path to go. How long will it train you to get into that stream? So, two things. I am not a DevOps engineer, but I'm going to give you some guidance anyway. To be a DevOps engineer, first you need to become a good software developer. That's the first thing. And then after that, you need to learn the DevOps tools. And then after that, you need to learn the DevOps tools on the cloud. I could make you a cloud architect far, far, far faster than you could become a DevOps engineer. Now, for DevOps, you're gonna have to be a good software engineer first. And then, Python's pretty easy, but you'll need to learn some Python. Then you'll need to get really good with those DevOps tools, Git, Spinnaker, Jenkins, there's just so many of those tools. And then learn the cloud tools. The best person I know to help you figure out how to build a DevOps career is Sandeep Das. Sandeep Das is on YouTube. You'll find Sandeep Das on LinkedIn. He's in Calcutta. He's a very close friend. And he actually did, he may have done how to become a DevOps engineer on my YouTube channel one day. But if not, I'm going to have him come do that with me very soon because I think it's a really great thing to do. But I recommend looking at Sandeep Daz. I'm not a DevOps engineer. I don't come from the software world. That's a real software engineer role. And I don't want to give you any misguidance. But no, it's not just like getting a simple AWS or DevOps professional certification. It's about how to truly be a DevOps engineer. Good question. If it was my area of expertise, I'd give you much more, but it's not about, don't get a million certifications. Become a software developer, then learn the DevOps tools, and then learn the DevOps tools in the cloud, and then get a professional certification. And Sandeep Daz is great for this. Great for this. Truly great for this. Chow, I wish I could provide more guidance here, but it's not my field, and I'd rather give no guidance than incorrect guidance. So Chow, whenever you're ready, if you can bring in another question. How does an architect avoid an outage in the cloud providers? Very simple. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. So if you stick all your eggs in one cloud, you will be down. It's just inevitable. And we've told people this forever. And some of the cloud providers were trying to say, yes, we can give it all in a cloud. We're fully redundant. Nonsense. Use more than one cloud. So when we network architects will build a wide area network, and we need 2 links between New York and London, we don't get them both on Verizon. That's insanity. And here's the reason why. If we get 2 links on Verizon and Verizon does a cable cut under the ocean and one's still good, we're fine. But we get 2 links on Verizon, Verizon has a global outage, and we lose both links. So if we have to go to US to UK, we'll get 1 link on Verizon and 1 link on AT&T. And that way, either company could fail and we're still up. How do you avoid an outage in the cloud? Use 2 cloud providers. AWS and Azure, AWS and Oracle. Microsoft and Oracle, those 2 work together now in multi-cloud. Google and AWS. Or you take your customer, you take their data center, you turn that into an OpenStack or Nutanix cloud, and you connect that to at least one web cloud. That's how you avoid it. You work around them. You know the cloud provider is going to crash. I can tell you right now, some cloud provider is going to have a major cloud outage this year. I don't even have to think about it. Most likely that will occur. It just happens. I've been designing networks for high availability systems for 20-some years. You never, ever, ever put all your eggs in one basket. And that's what people have been doing. Here, Mr. Cloud Provider, I'm sticking it all on you. I trust you. Well, would you stick all your money in a single stock because you trust them? Of course you wouldn't. If you had a certain amount of money, would you take it and put it in a backpack and drive back and forth in the subway? Of course you wouldn't. You never put all your eggs in one basket. It's insanity. The only people that are telling you to do this is one of the cloud providers. The rest of them are saying, look, multi-cloud's the way to go. But, how do you avoid an outage? You plan that they will be out. You know that they're going to have an outage, and you connect to most of them. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Hi, Mike. When I enroll in the program, I'll be bugging you a lot, asking tons of questions and picking your brain. You can ask questions during class and via Slack. It is a group coaching program. Now, Money Mike, we do have another one that gives you the ability to call me, and you get 2 30-minute calls for 16 weeks, but that course is $20,000 versus the one that we offer for $800. But, there's only a certain amount of time. That's why I have a staff, Money Mike, and I've got a great staff. There's 6 other people on my team that actually help people because I'm in class. I have to do what I need to do, which is to get you guys hired, which means talking to recruiters, talking to hiring managers, coming out there and building the brand and connecting with other executives so they need to hire my students. If I do those things outside of my class, I'll have 1,000 students that won't be getting hired because I'll be dedicating all my time to one person. So I expect you to participate in class. Come to class. I'll be calling you on class. In class, you're going to have to design, present, and sell. We'll be asking you lots of questions, and you're going to know exactly what to do in between classes. Then you're going to be submitting homework assignments and having my team of experts go over them with you. But no, I'm booked up for the next 8 weeks straight, even for paid $400 an hour consults. I've got an 8-week backlog, and I'm begging people not to even book them. At some point, we're going to have to raise the hourly rate that I have for private consults because I can't even do them. I mean, we get so many requests for them. And it makes sense, a couple calls with me and it kind of raise somebody's salary $30,000, $40,000 a year. So for people that want to buy 3 or 4 private consults, it makes sense. But Not in this course. In this course, I designed it to be a group course to share my level of experience and expertise with the world. And this year, we've gotten over 100 people cloud architect jobs. Most of them never worked in tech in their life. And our average salary is between $120,000 and $275,000 a year. But if I have to be talking to people outside of the classes, I won't be able to do what I need to make my students successful. It takes, I'm a busy guy. I was on national TV last week. I was in 10 magazines in the last 2 weeks or so. The articles, we haven't even distributed them yet because the media comes to me as an expert about getting people cloud hired, getting people promoted in tech, etc. So I'll expect you to come to class. I'll expect you to ask lots of questions of my team. I'll expect you to answer my questions in class, and in class I'll be answering your questions, and I expect you to answer every class. And that way we can make you better. But it's a group course, not a private course. We do have a private course, but we have to charge much, much, much more for that. Because then I need to hire other people to do my job. So I hope that makes sense, Mike. But I don't have any students that need me and don't get what they need in class. Everybody. And if you look at some of the cloud hired videos, I'll say we changed their life. All of them. Jeremy, do we will need to add edge computing? Of course, we're already doing it now. Edge computing's everywhere. I mean, Jeremy, right? Here's the reason why we need edge computing. And well, personally, I think half of this edge computing is nonsense, but I'll tell you why we need edge computing. So here's the reason. In my data center is very high performance. Going over the cloud is very low performance because we're going to go over 1,000 because there's the latency over the link. The latency over the link. So there's that. So also in the cloud, we've got poor disk performance. So the reason we're dealing with edge computing is if it takes 3 milliseconds for me to go to my house, to Google, AWS, Azure, whomever, doesn't matter, or my data center, it's 3 milliseconds. That's 3 milliseconds that can be a problem. Imagine a bank that processes 10 million transactions a day. And each transaction, if they can get them a nanosecond faster, it can be $1 million of additional profitability. So they can't afford to go to the cloud. So that we need to stick a data center between their business and the cloud, and that's called edge computing. Now, if more people just go back to, if more people decide to build up their data centers and build hybrid clouds like an OpenStack cloud or a Nutanix cloud, then after that, then what you're going to be talking about is we don't need the edge. We can stick all the high performance stuff in our data center and leave everything else in the cloud. So either the industry is going to go the way of hybrid clouds, which it looks like it's going, or edge computing, which could also be going. In either case, we're going to need it. But Jeremy, edge computing is no different than any other cloud computing. What is it? It's a data center. If it's an availability zone US East or an edge computing data center, it's got the same virtual machines, the same containers, the same block storage, object storage, file storage, same firewall. It's all identical technology. So there's nothing new to learn. The people that learned the technology 20 years ago still are 10 years advanced. And Jeremy, right, it's like amazing. AWS makes these press releases. Last year, they in a press release, we allowed east-west routing, like routing between subnets. Cisco did it in 1985. That's not new. I just saw another one, AWS, and it was huge. Now you can run VPC flow logs through Transit Gateway. But wait, Cisco did that in 2000. The other cool thing that I saw, life-changing thing on Amazon, you can now run IPsec over direct connection. Well, it's pretty pathetic we couldn't do it before, because I did that back in 1998. So if you truly know the network and the data center, you already know all of this, because we've been dealing with this for the last 25 years. None of this is new. The only thing new in the cloud is this following. They made up stupid names for the same technology to make it sound cool. It's hard to charge a lot for object storage when it's 40 years old, but if you make up the name Amazon Simple Storage Solution, well, that's something different. That's something very different. So, there's that, and it sounds new and fancy and exciting, but it's not. So learn the cloud and you know all the clouds. So if you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell. That way you'll be notified of new videos. We're going to be coming close to be giving you a YouTube video every single day of the week because I want all of you getting cloud hired. Benji, is a newly employed cloud architect placed under a senior cloud architect, and is there an opportunity to learn on the job? Benji, nobody's going to hire you with the need to learn on the job. As an architect, if you make the wrong design, you will bankrupt the company. You will bankrupt them. So you're going to have very good cloud architect skills before anybody will think about hiring you. And you'll have to be able to do the job completely independently before anybody will be able to hire you. Completely independently. Now, having said that, nobody's going to trust you, so they're still going to pair you with someone. But you must have the skills already. Because if you don't have those skills, 4 or 8 weeks later, the person's not going to be there anymore. So you'll be placed under a senior one because every company does things a little differently. When you join a company, you're going to have to find out the way that company works, company's organizational principles, which systems to use and how to use them, for example. Somebody's going to make sure they like the way you present to your customers. So yes, you'll work alongside them. But it's not a learn on the job thing. It's you know how to do the job and they're making you better at it. I want you to think of the architect as like a doctor. Do you think you could just bring them in and say, here, learn from me? No. You have to be trained ahead of time. So no, this is not a learn on the job thing. This is not like, doing maintenance on a building. This isn't like an apprenticeship for construction. This is a real career. So yes, you will have to be able to do the job before anybody will hire you. And then they will put a senior person with you to make sure that you're tuned and optimized, learn the ways of the company, the culture, etc. And it is the best job ever, Benji. It really is. Incredible job. Incredible job, incredible job, incredible job. And I want you to get this job because I think you'll be so happy, but you got to learn the skills first. Then if you learn the skills, you'll get the job. Then they will pair you with somebody up more senior. But you can't learn on the job. Now, I want you to understand this. If I had to dedicate a $300,000 architect for a year to teach somebody, it cost me, in terms of lost productivity with my architect, a minimum $150,000 to $200,000 to train somebody. I can't afford that as a company. But I can take you to be good enough, and then you can follow me around for 2 days to a week. And then after that, you can work on your own, and I can come and check on you every day, a couple times per day. That can work. And that's kind of what we're doing with. So some learning on the job, but you can't learn the career on the job. You can't learn to fly an airplane on the job either. You can be a good enough pilot, get on the plane, and there's a senior airline captain to make sure. But, can't fly a plane and learn on the job either. I think you get the concept. Can't do surgery and learn on the job either. That's why we do residencies, etc. in our program. And that's why we've created our program, which is like a special internship for everybody, to learn all these skills there. So they get out of the course ready to work. Ready to work. Hello, Mike. Can I enroll in the cloud architect training whenever you're ready? Whenever you're ready. As soon as you sign up, 2 things are going to happen. It's going to unlock the course, and you're going to start training that minute. You'll receive an email, and you'll literally start with, watching the first video, doing the first project, which is usually something like a tell me about yourself video. And then a career goals plan, something like that is going to be in the beginning. And then the next time we have a class, which is 3 times per week, so we'll put you into the next class. And each class stands alone. Because 2 of them are architecture training. 1 of them is leadership training per week, every week. So everybody cycles through all of them. Not only can you apply when you're ready, I'll let you stay in the program for up to a year until you get hired. Why? Because I want all my students getting cloud hired. Literally speaking, they all can stay to get hired. I'm not joking. I let people stay upwards a year on my program because I want to know my students make it to the top, have the best results, and get hired. Because some of the courses on your own, the live classes we do together in a very elegant sort of manner. Then you'll do projects on your own, and you'll get in and get out as fast as you can, but you have up to a year to get cloud hired. And I want you hired, and I'll do anything I can to help you get hired, as will my team. So it's great. And here's how we make it work. So I come from medicine. I also come from martial arts. Now in martial arts, you've got a black belt, a red belt, a yellow belt, a white belt, all in the same room. And there's a reason for this. They all learn and teach from each other. So when you come to my class, tomorrow's class would normally be an architecture class, but there's something special I'm going to do with my students tomorrow related to CXO relevancy. And in this class, for example, I'll have senior architects, medium people, and people that just signed up yesterday. So the senior people kind of lead the class. I describe the situation. The senior people are typically the ones that are giving me the guidance on how to design it. The people that have been with me for about a month are helping those senior people, and the brand new people are observing and learning. A month later, the senior people are all hired by working as cloud architects. All kinds of happy. Alonzo is happy. Chris is happy. Chow's happy. Eddie's happy. And Leo's happy. And Abigail's happy. We're all thrilled that the students got hired. And now, those intermediate students become the senior students. And then the junior people become intermediate students. And we do this until the people are hired. And by this way, I can let you stay in the program for a year. I had a student that had to go to Ethiopia for a couple months, and she came back to the program, no big deal. I had a student that had to go to India because of a sick family member. I have a lot of students that need to go back and forth to Nigeria or Cameroon periodically, and that's okay. And we just let them go home. We welcome them to 10 classes the best they can. When they come in, we let them stay until they're hired or a year passes, because we want our students to do really, really well. And if you'd like to work with us, I'd be thrilled to do everything I can to help you get cloud hired, as with the rest of my team. So enroll when you're ready. We're honored and privileged to help you. And please bring in your questions. That's why we do these things. Gee, in a couple of lectures, we looked at aggregating connections to the distribution layer. Is this a reference to the Cisco 3-layer model? This is the reference to all network architecture is the way everybody does things. You know, Cisco used to call it core access and distribution, but everybody does it that way. And here's the reason. Well, that's not true. You see people mistake and do this collapse core, spine, and leaf thing. It was a disaster. But because if you build a high-speed core with the biggest, most redundant, highest performance, highest availability routers, and then you decouple it by creating a distribution layer, which feeds into the core, and then you create the access layer where your things are designed and plugged in. Wow, now if something happens at the access layer, we can potentially protect the core at the distribution layer. So it's just a decoupled architecture. So when did Cisco come up with this? Back when we used to use monolithic web applications, meaning it was all in a single server. And we went from those monolithic applications to a web server, app server, database server environment that with load balancers in between and queues. Where do you think that came from? That came from Cisco's 3-layer architecture model, which, by the way, every network company did. When I was at Riverstone, they used it. At Juniper Networks, they used it. Everybody uses it because that's the best way to build a high-performance, high-availability network. Hey, wait. All these applications in the cloud are doing the same thing. It all comes from networking. All of this is all of networking technology. And that's why I say learn the network, learn the data center, you know it all. Yes, this was the Cisco Core Access distribution, but we did the same thing. I worked for a Cisco competitor for a while. We did the same thing. It's just the best way to design things. You know, there's a couple rules in high availability, high performance systems. 1 is none and 2 is 1. Meaning, single cloud, done, you're dead. Single router, done, you're dead. 2 clouds, good. 2 routers, better. You get to play and see at least 2 of everything, and 3 is even better than 2. And, you know, segmenting your network, segmenting your VPCs, it's the same thing. VLANs versus multiple VPCs for VPC peering. Private lines like private link, it's all the same thing. Yeah, gee, we actually did some other networking stuff this week. It was really fun. Or was it last week? It must have been last week. I really loved all those networking things because I started there and love every last minute of it. So I think they're fantastic. We'll have to do more networking, G. And if you're asking for more networking, you don't have to twist my thumb. I love getting down and dirty and deep in networking. So my whole life, ever since I left medicine, and it's been the best thing that ever happened to me. If you've got some questions, please bring in your questions. We want to do everything we can to help you build your best cloud computing career. Whether you want a solution architect job, cloud architect job, enterprise architect job, while we're at it, on August 12th, we're going to have a free interview session, and I will interview you. And you will know if you're ready to be hired, and if so, all the other things that you need to learn to become hired. Like, how much time would you suggest dedicating to your program? It really depends on your background. If I was coming from a management consulting background, which is basically the same thing, it depends on how fast I'd like to get done the program too. But in a management consulting background, I'd say somebody spend 2 to 3 hours a day for about 6 months and they'll be great. Now, if I had someone from an optometry background, I would tell them they probably need to spend about 4 to 5 hours a day for about 8 months straight to be good. Because in this case, we're dealing with both the need to get some of those critical executive skills and business skills and the tech skills at the same time. Now, if I was dealing with a good, strong application architect, I'd probably say 2 hours a day for 2 to 3 months and they'll be good. Now, if you told me a software developer, I'd tell you it's going to take every bit of 8 months at 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours a day. So it depends on the actual job that the person is interested. That's the biggest thing to remember and where their starting point is. If you're an executive already, well, then you only need the tech. If you're not an executive, you need the executive training and the regular training. But I'd suggest, if knowing your background, 20 to 40 hours a week, I think would be really good for you if you're in a rush, or 20 hours a week for, 8 months or so. And I know how hard it is when you have a medical job. It's not always so easy. Now, I did it, but I also didn't sleep and read 1,000 pages a day every day for 6 months. But I think if you put in, it's all how fast, if you put in 10 hours a week, it's going to take you, 12, 13 months. It's okay too. But it's how fast you want to get at it. You gotta, it's how fast, you got a distance. How long does it take you to get to 2 points? It depends on how far you go each day. So, and how fast you learn each day. What you'll find is some of these things are going to be easy for you. I mean, truly easy for you. Easy for you. And other things are going to be very challenging. I don't know what they are. It's dependent for you. Like you want me to learn how to do math? Oh, it's terrible. In my MBA program, it was like, thank God for Excel, because I couldn't do math. But I didn't need to do math other than things like calculate an ROI model or do IP addressing, because that's not my world. Now, I can learn math. It just takes me 10 times longer than my wife. My wife's a math genius. She can do calculus in her head. She can also learn a language in 2 weeks if somebody can't understand their thoughts, because she's that smart. But you ask her to give a presentation in front of 10,000 people, she'd want a lot of preparation for that. She could do it, but she'd want to prepare for it because that's not what she loves to do. So we all love different things. We're all apt to do different things. You stick a screwdriver in my hand and tell me that I need to change an electrical outlet, and I now have a lot of electrical engineering background, but I wouldn't know how to turn that screwdriver. In fact, I've tried. I've been trying to learn how to use a screwdriver and a hammer for 25 years. Every time I pick it up, my wife says, there's $5,000. And I said, what do you mean? And I go to hang a pillow, and the next thing you realize, we need a wall in the room. I'm not joking. And while I was at it, I had a pipe inside the wall, and now we need a plumber too, and now we need carpeting. So, we all have natural things to learn. You don't ever want to see me with a screwdriver or hammer. No, it's honestly, it's embarrassing, but I've been trying to do it forever in case I ever get stuck in the woods. But so I'd say just put as much time into it as you can and don't rush it. Because I know what it's like. You've got a full-time job, and your job is actually a pretty strenuous job. You're dealing with the public. When? I am looking for a list of things I need to know to be competent in security. Can we please make a video and do a deep talk about this? You love our channel and all the videos you have so far. Well, there's a reason I can't answer that question. There's multiple security careers, and each one needs a different set of skills. So what's competency for a penetration tester is different than a security architect, who's different than an IM architect, which is part of security. So, I made a video on how to secure your PVC or your environment last week. That's, for the most part, the knowledge that people need in most of those careers. But there's other stuff too. So I don't know which career you want. Again, the job of a doctor is different than a physical therapist, who's different than a pharmacist, who's different than a nurse. And there's multiple kinds of security jobs. That's why it's so challenging for security. It's like you asked me to make a video on what's required to be competent in the cloud. I couldn't do it either. Because the cloud engineer's competency is exactly the opposite of the cloud architect's competency, which is different than a DevOps engineer, which is different than a databases engineer. So if you tell me the career, then we can do it. But it has to be focused on what we actually need to know. Sarah, during the career webinar, we discussed career path or options. I don't know what you mean by career path. My student's first job is a cloud architect job. That's their first one. They don't do other kinds of things. If they take my cloud architect career development program, their first job as a cloud architect. Now, if they take our cloud engineer career development program, their first job is a cloud engineer. There's no path. Now, when you're a cloud architect, depending upon what you do, you can become a CTO, you can become a chief information officer, a VPIT, what do you want to do with it? And that's going to be based upon the actions that you take. But there is no career path for this. You want to be an architect, become an architect. Now, Sarah, this nonsense of career path comes out of people believing you need to start at help desk or cloud admin and do that for 3 to 5 years, and then hope that you can get a cloud engineering job, and then hope that you can convince someone that now that you've been a techie for 10 years, you're an architect. That is a nightmare, and all these things we would suggest not doing. Somebody told me this 10 years ago. I said, I want to be a network engineer. And they said, you need to know the network engineer career path. I'm like, career path? I'm going to become a network engineer. I'm going to become a doctor. I'm going to go to medical school. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to go to law school. Oh, yeah, Mike, you got to do this help desk thing for a couple of years. And then after you do this silly help desk thing, then you got to become a network admin. And then you can be a junior engineer and a network engineer and then a senior network engineer and then maybe an architect 20 years later. And Sarah, I went, no. And they said, you're never going to do it. So I said, my first job will be a network engineer. And they laughed at me. I was incorrect. My first job was a senior network engineer, not a network engineer. And I trained heavily, Sarah, heavily. And not only did I train heavily, I read 1,000 pages a day, every day for 6 months straight. My first job was a senior network engineer. 6 months later, I was the lead architect at the world's largest internet service provider and the most critical team. There is no career path. Study for the job you want, train the job you want, and get the job you want. Now, if you want to know what the career path is afterwards, cloud architect, distinguished cloud architect, or cloud architect versus enterprise architect, or cloud architect versus VP of IT, that's another thing. But there is no career path. You just train for the job you want and you get it if you train right. You think an airplane pilot becomes a flight attendant first and then an airline mechanic to get to their job? Of course they don't. You're just trained to be a pilot. Lawyers don't go to school to be doctors to learn how to be a lawyer and just hope they're going to learn on the job. They train for the job they want. I'm going to also tell you this, Sarah T. In my 20 years of coaching, I've never needed to have anybody start at an entry-level job, ever. Never. There's no reason for it. I train them right. Eat right, think right, train right, and get the job you want. So on the Cloud Engineer Career Development webinar, I'm going to tell you how to get your first cloud engineer job. That'll be your first job. There's no career path. It'll be your first one. And for the Cloud Architect Career Development webinar, I'll tell you how to get your first cloud architect job. And that will be the first one. And that's going to be the only one. Because there's no needed steps along the way. So there's no path. Now, we would discuss career options, like would you like to be a cloud architect versus a cloud security architect versus a cloud network architect? Yes, absolutely. Because there's different study plans that you need for each. That is something different. And there are advantages to be a specialist architect versus a generalist architect or a vertical industry architect like me. Meaning, if I design systems for medicine, right, I can practice medicine, and I'm an architect, so I'm a very valuable medical or healthcare enterprise architect, healthcare network architect. But no, there's no career path. Train for the job you want and go get it. And that's, the misconception that people have. They seem to think they need to do this. I'm not a techie. I come from medicine. Yes, I've spent 25 years working in tech as an architect, all of them. And yes, I've spent 2 decades getting people their first job. But I don't think like a techie, and I don't start my people out at the bottom. I get them the good top jobs that other people would spend a decade getting to by training them right. So I'll discuss how to get the ultimate end destination, not how to do all the introductory level things, because why should you? Why start at the bottom if you don't have to? That's what training's for. So you don't have to make the mistakes other people made in the past to try to hope to get to the end goal. That's why I've coached. And I have a coach for me too. Good question though, Sarah. Maria George, I was a medical professional. I think you can have a career in the cloud. Of course you can. Have no experience in tech, but you're willing to dedicate. How long were you programmed to be a cloud architect? Maria, it's going to be approximately for you about 8 months. It takes that long, but in about 8 months you should be hired. Especially if you're a medical professional, you should have some good communication skills. Hopefully you've got some emotional intelligence from the communication things. We have a very special emotional intelligence section, which I can't talk about too much, but we both leverage all the work that all the other people use, like the Goldmans and others. We also integrate some cognitive behavioral therapy because I did my psych clinical rotations at University of Pennsylvania Medical Center under David Burns. It was Albert Ellis, David Burns, etc. that kind of founded cognitive therapy. So I did mine there. So we've got some of that. I also brought in some meditation techniques and some meditation coaches because emotional intelligence is about controlling your emotions and other people's emotions. So I think you're going to have a good start there. My psychologist, the mental health tech that just got her first cloud architect job, it really helped her. And, you'll have to learn all of the tech skills, all those network and data center skills. Now, coming from healthcare, you're going to need that business acumen, the CXO relevancy, that executive presence. We typically don't have it in healthcare because in healthcare, we're taught to be, hi, my name's Mike. How can I help you today? And in business, we need to be, hi, my name's Mike. I'm here to help you. And it's a totally different. We're not trying to be smaller. We're trying to be bigger and more powerful. So there's that transition that will need to occur. Now, depending upon your medical background, the thinking will be very easy or just challenging. If you're in a position like a physician or a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant, where you meet with someone, you ask a bunch of questions, you make a diagnosis and a treatment plan, this is going to be nothing for you. It's the same job already. If you're coming from a nursing world, for example, and it's a world I know well because I used to be an RN too, before I became a nurse practitioner. Now in this world, somebody's giving you a treatment plan. That's more like the engineer when I say titrate a nitro drip to a systolic BP of 110, or titrate a dopamine drip to a systolic BP of whatever. That's kind of like, that's engineering. And but in any case, the communication that you've done with people will be help you. My medical people are the easiest people to get hired because they're so good with their communication skills as a rule. They generally have a very good attitude. And anybody from the medical world realizes how lucky they are to be in tech because it's so much easier. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Marie George, we could definitely help you if you desire. I don't say definitely because I have not met you, but most likely we could be a major impact to your career. Love working with nurses, doctors, respiratory therapists, etc. Please hit that like button if you haven't yet. How long to master emotional intelligence? Well, I probably have $50,000 of training in it. I've probably read about 50,000 pages in it because it's a passion project of mine. And I'd say that after 25 years, I'm still working on my emotional intelligence techniques to get better every day. But I was really, really strong, I'd say, in about 1,000 hours of training. But I've practiced this now for 25 years. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So this is a lifelong process, emotional intelligence, because emotional intelligence is about really learning to control your emotions, but also manage others' emotions. Now, Marie, normally, they teach us therapeutic communications, right? Therapeutic communications is, how to talk to somebody else, but it doesn't teach you how to manage your emotions. And that's where all emotional intelligence training fails. They're not teaching you how to manage your emotions. Your emotions. And because they're not teaching you how to manage your emotions, they're there. So we've got some very special techniques that we use. Some techniques are used by Navy SEALs, for example. Some techniques are used by Olympians. Some techniques are yoga. I've integrated a cognitive behavioral therapy because that's a big part of it, of controlling your emotions as well as mastering others. And I've added the traditional training. So we put a lot of time and effort and money into our emotional intelligence work. Because emotional intelligence is the best predictor of someone's long-term career success and one of the biggest impacts on their salary. Lifelong journey, though. Ciao, if you want to go to the next one. In what way does cloud architecture provide automation and performance? I don't think you understand. Architecture doesn't do that. Architecture doesn't provide automation. Architecture is design. DevOps engineers provide automation. SysOps or maintenance provides performance information. We're architects. We design the blueprints for the building, and I've explained it. So everything you're asking me here is somebody else's job. We don't do any of that. I want you to understand this. For example, if you wanted to have a hotel design, right? You'd hire the architect. The architect would build the design. This many feet tall, waterfalls like this, gardens like this, trees over here, a pool over here. That's what the architect does. They make a blueprint and document what, why, and how. Now, then they hire a construction crew to go build it, right? And they provide somebody else to maintain it. The construction crew, in this case, might be some DevOps engineers that will do some automation. Performance, that's the maintenance people after it's done. And guess what? That's not the DevOps people at that point. That's the maintenance people or the SysOps. So you're confusing three different careers inside of the architecture career. So cloud architecture does not provide any of that. Cloud architecture is the design, is the blueprint to transform a company's business with technology. Not that. Now, part of our architecture could be, for example, if minimum wage goes up, I hate to say it, you'll be called the next day. Companies will say, minimum wage way up. What kind of things can we do to fire people and lay them off? And you'll be talking about robots, which can take over people's jobs. That kind of automation we do. But the kind of automation you're talking about is DevOps. But if you're talking about robots and self-checkouts so that employers don't have to pay a cashier, that kind of stuff, that we do. But, not this kind of automation that you're talking about. I'm assuming you're talking about that because it's kind of cryptic. So why don't we go to the next one? Because I don't know how to answer that based upon the way it's written. Marie George, would you give some examples how we train our students? Yes. If you're a member of our program, you'll learn how we train our students in emotional intelligence. But this is the call where we can tell you how to build your career. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and other companies have contributed, probably another $100,000 to my training personally to be able to do this. We reserve these rights and also 20 years plus of training. This is for our students in our program. Here we're giving you generic guidance, but now you want to know the inner workings of our program, you'll have to be our student to see that. But if you take our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, then you'll get our emotional intelligence training. So you can go to the next one. Like I watched Mike's videos for over a year before signing up. Got a bunch of certifications during the time, but no job. Getting rebuilt from the ground up, learning networking the right way. Mark, you're going to be hired real soon. Mark, you're extremely smart. But that's the thing. Getting a bunch of certification in everybody else's job not only doesn't help us at our job, it hurts our brand. I mean, you got a person flying the plane, right? You have a choice of two pilots. Pilot one is an expert pilot. Pilot two was a pilot, but they also were a doctor, a lawyer, a flight attendant, and a car mechanic. Anyone flying the plane. I want the pilot, not the hobbyist that knows 10 different careers. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Mark, you're doing fantastic. I got to see you in class the other day. Totally blown away with how good you're doing. I can't wait till you get caught hard. I'm pretty excited for you. You're going to do great. Money Mike, what happens when the architects in your program are hard to slow rate? They're not hard to slow rate. Does this mean newly enrolled students who have to wait a long time to get more hands-on work? No, the hands-on work is on you whenever you want to do it. You get your own servers. You got access to our own data center. Now, Money Mike, I want to make this very clear. Cloud architects never touch the technology. Never. When you leave my program, that will be the last time you will ever touch the technology. We design, we present, and sell. Once 25 years ago when I left engineering to be in architecture, that's the last time I touched the tech. Over 100 of our students got hired last year, and we asked them, what's your job? Mike, I go to meetings, I buy lunches, I write statements of work, I respond to RFIs, Ps, and Qs. Just like you told me, I never touch the tech. So we will do tech, and there's plenty of tech for you to do it at any pace you want. Nobody gets slowed down. But understand the hands-on work that we do is design. We design stuff. That's our hands-on work. We present it. We sell it. We negotiate it. That is hands-on work for the architect. Sure, I'll have you build your own cloud, but there's no shortage of servers. We can handle 5 times as many students and still have servers. I bought so many servers you can't even imagine. And here's what happened. I knew what was going to be going on with the supply chains. I looked at all the stimulus money that was going out and said, we're going to have runaway inflation. And I literally bought 50 servers. 50 of them for my students. Now, we're using 5 of them because they're all hyper-converged environments. So I've got that many servers left over. We have no shortage of compute power for our students. I bought them when I knew they were going to go up 200% and 300%, which they did. Because if you're an architect and you're a really good architect, you should have good knowledge of macroeconomics. And we could see what was going on with the money that was going to stimulate inflation. So we have extreme server capacity. So I could deal with thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands more students long before my students wouldn't have the time to build their own clouds and data centers and things like that. So we're not even close to that. We have 10 times more infrastructure already built than we need it because we know it's coming. And our students are getting hired at an unprecedented rate to the point where we can't even keep track of it. And the number of requests for people that are trying to join our program is so high that we have so much extra capacity. It's not an issue, Mike, and it won't be an issue for years. And if it comes down to it, I'll get the biggest, baddest AMD servers that you can possibly buy that'll have like 192 cores, and I'll buy 50 of them or 100 of them. I don't care. We already run our own cloud, and I'll build the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th cloud for our students to really get hands-on work. We don't have an issue with this. Not even close. I've been designing and building clouds for 25 years, so it's not new to me. So where do you learn the paths about the cloud security architecture there is? Please help. Again, not paths, choices. Which would you like to be? When it comes to cloud security architect, there's really one job, to be a cloud security architect. To become a defensive security engineer, that's a different job. To become an offensive security engineer, that's a different job. To be a cloud IAM architect, that's a totally different job. But to be a cloud security architect, there's one path. How do you design an end-to-end security solution? It's the same thing. Kind of like, there's one kind of pilot. It's an airplane pilot. Now, in each job, you're going to have to learn different things. Maybe somebody's flying the 747 or the 767, but it's all subtle. So if you're dealing with security architect, there's just one. Learn the network, learn the data center, learn the applications, learn the IAM activities, learn how to write a security policy, do anti-malware, learn the anti-malware, anti-ransomware, learn the packet filtering options, the network segmentation options, the network authentication options. That's it. It's security. AppSec security, data loss prevention, it all goes into the cloud security architect. So there is one cloud security architect. That's it. Now there's lots of different kinds of security engineers, but architects do just one thing: design, present, and sell. And that's all you're going to be doing as a cloud security architect. Now each architecture is going to be different, but to be a cloud security architect, you're going to have to know security principles, when to train people, how to write a security policy, how to secure an operating system, what kind of security appliances to do, what's the DMZs need to look, what kind of authentication system. That's it. It's one job. It used to be called a security architect. Now it's called the cloud security architect. It's the same job. But there are other security careers that are not architect jobs if you're interested. John Daly, thanks for everything. Just getting in your journey. 5th year of help desk to cloud security architect. As far as home good models go, I can build to display knowledge. Okay, but here's your problem. You're a help desk person, John. You don't need to show tech. Well, you still do because it's the wrong tech. You need to show that you're not a help desk person. Okay, so what's Mike saying here? And I hate saying this, John. I hate it. There's a British TV show of help desk, and it's people's impressions. It's the person that you call and they're grumpy and unhappy. That's the impression you have of help desk. The first thing that you need to do is go from that help desk brand and show that you're a business executive, which is an architect. So there's that. So that means executive presence training, leadership training, sales training, emotional intelligence training, presentation skills training, ROI modeling training, negotiation training, etc. And without this, John, you'll be an engineer. You can never become an architect. That's why we created a cloud architect group. That's the thing that separates us from the engineers. Now here, what are you going to need to know? First, you're going to need to know the cloud, which means servers and server virtualization and container orchestration, block storage, object storage, file storage. Then you're going to need to know operating systems vulnerabilities. Then you're going to need to know things about host-based firewalls. You're going to need to know about intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, etc. How to keep that. Now, when you're done those kind of things, you're going to need to understand next generation firewalls, VPN concentrators, they call it, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, data loss protection systems, encryption technology, authentication, authorization, and accounting systems. These are the kind of things that you need to know. Not how to configure them. This is not a hands-on tech position, but how to design them, present them, and sell them. Now, if you're going to do home labs, I'd build the cloud. I'd hack into the cloud. I'd secure the operating systems. I'd work with some firewalls. I mean, real stuff. But no, your bigger challenge is not the tech coming from a tech job. Your bigger challenge is showing you're not help desk and showing you're an executive. So, John, if you were talking about trouble tickets and help desk stuff, nobody cares. But if you can say, implemented new help ticketing system that decreased time to fix events by 10%, created a new system which improved ticket closure rate by this number of percent, great, implemented a new system that did this, got a 99.5% customer satisfaction score of 5 or greater, or 4 or 5.5 or greater. Wow, those things are good. So it's showing that you're not help desk, that you're showing that you are a business executive that knows technology. Could you please tell you what the first step to do? Yes. Stepping into the security field? Well, first, identify what kind of job you want. Because there's lots of security jobs and they're all different. So do you want to be an architect? Do you want to be an engineer? Do you want to be a penetration tester? What do you want to do? First step is figure that out. Figure that out, and I don't have a lot of time. And on Wednesday, I'll help you get there, but you need to know which one of these jobs you want first. Are cloud engineers hired as quickly? I can get a cloud engineer hired much faster as a general rule than a cloud engineer because there's much less to learn for the cloud architect. But I can get cloud engineers hired too, but for the most part, I have an easier time getting a cloud architect hired because we're so good at building up the executive communication skills, the leadership skills, the presentation skills, and the architecture skills. And we're so in touch with what hiring managers work. It's typically easier for me to get a cloud architect hired than a cloud engineer, and the pay's higher as well by far. But it's up to you what you like to do. We can get you hired in anything if you do follow the right plan and determine what you need to do. But and then Chow, if you can deal with some of these bots, okay, you see, you already got them. But there's that. But yeah, we can easily get you your goals. But it doesn't matter. One's not easier to get to than the other. I mean, for me, it's easier to teach cloud architects. In my case, I'm usually getting people the cloud architect job faster than they can get the cloud engineer job. But that's our expertise. But we're also really good at getting cloud engineer jobs. So it's about, what do you want? If you want a job of design, present, and sell, it's the architect world. If you want to be a hands-on techie, it's the engineer world. We need both. If I just design it as a cloud architect and there's nobody to build it, I got PowerPoint where. So it's a matter of needing both. Good question. Shall I can potentially take one more? Does a security architect need to travel? Of course. Is their frequency less? No. This is a job, Asha, of design, present, and sell. And if you want a design, present, and sell job, you must travel. Because you got to build the relationship. You got to be there with the customer. So you're always going to be traveling. Cloud security architect, you're probably going to travel a lot more than the cloud architect, though. And here's the reason. As a cloud architect, I might be working with a customer for 6 months. It may take me 6 months from the time I first meet with that client, ask the right questions, build my team to design a solution. Now, I may borrow that cloud security architect for 3 weeks during the time. Now, in the meantime, that cloud security architect may work with 20 or 30 other cloud architects and traveling to all their customer sites as well. So generally speaking, a cloud security architect will generally travel far more than a regular generic architect because they've got a specialty. And there's more generic cloud architects than there are experts at one little small field. And that's why if you're an expert, you generally get paid a lot more. You generally have more opportunity for advancement. But when you micro-segment your career like this, the cloud security architect, you're going to travel a lot more. Give you an example. As a regular consulting, as a regular systems engineer, sales engineer, which is like an architect, those guys would travel 30,000 miles a year. I was a BGP consultant. I traveled 200,000 miles a year because I was that narrowed down. So when you're one of 5 or 10 or 20 people in the world that's good at what you do, and I was one in terms of multicast and BGP for decades, the world's going to just pull you and you're going to travel a lot more. But it's a great thing and it's a great place. So let me end on this. Do what you love. Make your vacation your vocation, and you'll never work in a day in your life. Actually, Mark Simpson, you're costing yourself by sitting on the sidelines. That is so true. Every day that you're not working as a cloud architect, you're losing about $600 a day. And every day you're not working as a cloud engineer, you're losing $400 or $500 a day on average. So the opportunity cost of your time to sit around is so high. That's why we created this program. We charge almost what it costs us to run it, because all I care is that you all get cloud hired and build your best cloud computing careers. This Thursday, we're going to have a completely free How to Become a Cloud Engineer and Get Your First Cloud Engineer workshop. Please join us. The link is in the chat box and the description below. We're going to have a LinkedIn and resume workshop. Sign up. The link is in the description and the chat box below. Be like one of my students where the world hammers them, and hammers them trying to hire them. And then finally, we're going to do free mock interviews on Friday. Register for the free interview. The link is in the chat box in the description below. And if you want to get your first cloud architect job, or you want to get your first cloud engineer job, join our cloud architect career development program or our cloud engineer career development program. And me and Alonzo and Chris and Chow and Abigail and Eddie and Leo, we're all going to be celebrating and dancing when you get cloud hired. We do it every single time. So kind of keep that and take care of yourself. See you soon. Give me a hashtag cloud hired, everybody. Look forward to seeing you very soon.